And it is time right now for our manager's report with Mike Shildt, refreshed by Eco Water SoCal. Try alkaline water for just $9.95 a month. Eco Water SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. So on Wednesday, after the game against the Dodgers, I was down in the clubhouse with my camera getting some sound, and I saw all kinds of kids and significant others, and I asked, what's going on? And I was told, this is the family weekend trip for the San Diego Padres. And kind of it came out the same day that the Athletic piece about what players, like fans, don't understand about baseball and how little time players get with their families and get to see their kids or their parents because the season is so long and so grinding. So as we welcome Mike Shildt on, Mike, I wanted to ask you, how important do you think it is for teams to do this and have a series, a road trip where they get to bring their kids, their wives, their girlfriends, whoever, and do something like this during the course of a long year? And good morning to you.
Hey, good morning to both of you guys as well. Hope your day's going well.
Thank you.
To get started. It's for me, it's really, really important. It's first time we've done it since I've been here, and I feel it's really important that we include that. Listen, we're all very blessed and grateful for what we get to do for 9 months together. But the reality is we spend a ton of time, the guys spend a ton of time, staff included, away from their, support systems, their wives, their families, their kids. We're together almost 12 to 14 hours a day for 9 months straight, to the sacrifice of time with the family and loved ones. And so, we need to bring them to us occasionally. And so this is a trip that makes perfect sense, very close, very easy. Had a day off yesterday, which will have people to enjoy that time with their families. So it's really, really, really important.
I love it. Talking to the skipper, Mike Shildt, here on Ben and Woods this morning. And Shildty, I am looking at currently right in front of me is the bobblehead of one of the most dynamic baseball players that I have ever seen, Fernando Tatis Jr. And I'm continues to help this team win, even when he's not hitting up to what he wants. I'm sure he continues to help this team win with his arm, with his legs. I mean, he's just, as we said, one of the most dynamic baseball players on the planet. And, for you, I think I wanted to ask, have you considered moving him out of the top spot in the lineup? How much talk has there been about lineup construction over the last maybe 6 weeks?
Came right at it, man. That's a good one. The lineups, it's interesting because I think about the lineup every day.
Sure.
So it's not over the last 6 weeks. It's not anything that, there are days that are easier. Others, it's clarity for me. There's others. It's a wonderful topic for people to talk about.
Yes.
The good news about Toddy is, he can hit anywhere in the lineup. There's also a lot of moving parts of the lineup that, quite frankly, I don't need to discuss,
Right.
that aren't public privy. It's clearly worked when it works. If he's hitting well, you want him hitting there. Still, when he's not there, he's worked some walks. He's got some bags. He's a complete threat. I can tell you, just watching the game, that there's an uncomfortability from the very moment that starting pitcher gets on the mound that has to face him. But yeah, there's a conversation that, internally takes place with me and some of the staff that we always consistently look at, including with players. So, always try to give you guys the absolute best answer I can, and that's the best I can do for you right now.
Yeah, I realize that.
I think every Padre fans knows. I mean, Fernando's going to break out at some point.
Yes.
It's just a matter of when is it going to happen? We all, of course, you do too, hope it's sooner rather than later, but I think we're all confident that it's going to happen. I wanted to kind of talk more about the broader approach for the team, the one that worked amazingly well for you guys last season, early this season. There's so many numbers in this game, Mike, that your head could spin. We were talking with Eno Saris from The Athletic, and he said your guys lead the league in letting pitches travel, and it's one of the reasons why you're so good at not striking out, one of the lowest strikeout rates in all of baseball. Do you see, though, he also said that sometimes when you see that, though, then the other teams start pitching you different. You talk about being elite adjusters. Have you noticed that in terms of other teams starting to adjust to what you guys are doing? And how much of a chess game, because I know you like the chess game aspect of it, is that in terms of an approach for a team, being consistent versus having to make those adjustments as the season goes on?
Yeah. I mean, we do some things in house that are very, very do our jobs. I think it's good to have third party sources point things out. I feel really confident on. You talk about being elite adjusters. We have elite staff. We have really good people and a lot of them that are able to point out these things. And so the first thing of anything is an awareness to it. When you're good at something, especially in this league, to your point, where there's so much information, there's going to be a counter adjustment fairly quickly. This team's doing this well. We need to think about doing that. We do it with our pitching. We do it with our hitting. We know where things are going to, where guys are going to pitch us. We know where it's going to show up. And so there is an awareness. There's a preparation. And this is where I'm so privileged to understand and see this. And it allows me to be very calm, quite frankly, and with all the information and with all the reaction, and in some cases overreaction. And of course, we never want to underreact, and that's the sweet spot to all this, right?
Yep.
At least for me. But I get the privilege to know that all takes place, and to know that there's an awareness to it, there's a work to it, there's an experience to it that says, okay, this is, including our players. This is the part that also want to be understood, that player involvement is this, because they're the ones that go out and perform. So there is an awareness, and there is, again, that sweet spot of mentally figuring out what that looks like, physically figuring out what that looks like, seeing the other team can execute it, making sure we can execute it when we're looking to do it. And then finally, listen, the one thing that I won't alibi, but is a fact, I know people think it's way easier said than done. So when people say, hey, are you aware of this? Are you thinking about that? Or, yeah, we are. And we are working at it. And we've done a pretty darn good job. And I wish I could tell you we were perfect. And I wish I could tell you that these guys were machines and we could just automatically flip the switch and it just happened. But, but I don't want to make any excuses either. At the end of the day, nobody ultimately cares. We got to figure out a way to get it done. And I do think for the most part we do, and do it well. And quite honestly, for my own peace of mental health, and that's all I can do.
100%. It's the hardest needle to thread, I'm sure, for all you guys, because you look at the guys at the top of the lineup with immense capabilities. Obviously, the stretch that Manny's been on has been incredible. I mean, just incredible, putting the team on his back when needed. And, the other guys having the ability, you see some of the guys like Jackson starting to break out and go the other way and hit the ball hard and all that, Skip. The information can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes for these guys. Is it important for you to remind a guy like Jackson Merrill, hey, man, you're just really good at baseball. Go out and do what you do. Don't get maybe caught up in anything, outside of that as far as the numbers and things like that go?
Yeah, it's especially important to remind all of them of that, especially in the, micro world we live in, where, they're not getting those reinforcements anywhere else other than, internally, or, you mentioned the family trip, people
Sure.
that are going to support them. And, that's our little bubble that, does support each other and knows how hard the game is, and, insulates from, the challenge that is the game. And, specifically Jackson, absolutely. He's a really talented player. Clearly, he's demonstrated it. I think it would be, irresponsible and unfair, quite honestly, to think that there wasn't going to be some regression with any player. Toddy started off in a historic flip.
Yep.
We all would love for that to happen. Jack has started off in an amazing, start. And things do kind of normalize to a certain place, to the back of the baseball card. and we ride it when it's good, and we're excited about it. We want to continue. Of course, they do too. But we also recognize that, it's a long season, and balls are going to be hit at people, and it's just you're not going to get borderline strike calls, and it's just a game, right? And so, yeah, you completely remind Jackson that how great you are and how wonderful a player you are, and try to continue to remind them of all these things, what you do to have success. But the good ones like Jackson, they do need it. They need a human element. They need to continue to go play. And you mentioned Manny, and he's had a wonderful year. He's been very, very consistent. But 4 weeks ago during a stretch, there were some questions about Manny.
Yeah.
And I said, well, see me in a week.
Yep.
And the thing that's interesting about the see me in a week part is then when he gets back to performing well, everybody just goes, yeah, he's Manny. He should be performing well.
It's true. It's true. No, you're right. You're right.
It's true. It's so true.
It's
so true. But that's the nature of the game in the world.
Well, you always say, and I love it when you say it because it's absolutely true. The other team is trying too, and it's like, yeah, you forget that sometimes, and it's absolutely true. And it leads me to my next question. I know you've answered it before, talking about position players pitching, and kind of what we saw a couple nights ago. Do you think that is something that needs to be addressed in baseball, or should teams run their teams the way they want to run their teams?
I think teams run their teams the way they run their teams. I mean, within the rules of the game. And,
yeah.
You have to. And so, look, I got my hands full of managing their own club. And, I have an opinion about what that looks like. Position players sign a contract to play positions, pitchers sign a contract to pitch. I do recognize also that, you get into situations where, you don't have any real choices, and unfortunately we got into one of those situations with early in the year and asked Wade to pick up an inning.
Yep.
I was very grateful for him for doing it. I historically have, not looked to do that a whole lot. If we got to, I also feel like that, and again, you get caught in a certain schedule, certain games. Something happens early in the game with a starter, which has happened with us, whether it be, injury or performance. You're going to get stretched out, and you're going to, you don't want to affect anybody's health to pick up that inning if it's not there. So, but the fact of the matter is, if all things being run as efficiently as possible, which again can be out of your hands, it really shouldn't have a lot of situations where you have to pitch a position player.
Couple more minutes here. Speaking with manager Mike Shildt on our manager's report, refreshed by Eco Water SoCal. So I think we're all blessed, us, that we get to do something that we love to do every day. But with every job, there's always the parts you really like, and there's always a couple of things that we don't like doing with our job.
Speak for yourself.
I'm going to ask you, and you can be honest, or you can duck it a little bit. This is an Apple TV game tonight. They always make you do the in-game interview where they'll get down. Trisha Whitaker will come down with
the third inning or whatever.
In the middle of the inning. And I've got to imagine if I was a manager, that would be the most annoying thing. I'm trying to manage a game here, and it's in the contract. I'm sure with Major League Baseball, you have to do that. What's your approach there? Just to get through it? How does this work?
It doesn't really bother me as much as you would think. I kind of got my head around the fact that years ago, actually, that, listen, talk about being blessed, there's no kidding about that. I get to do it in the best market in the industry, with a fun, exciting, talented team. So, it's wonderful. But, once I looked up and realized, I know where our bread's buttered, right? I mean, our fans are our bread and butter. The coverage of the games are our bread and butter. That's how we get compensated. That's how this industry thrives. So I don't want to, shortchange that. Is it inconvenient sometimes? Yeah, I did get a couple of years ago, ESPN Sunday game when they were playing over in Wrigley, and end of the season, and hard fought contest, and they started the inning interview, and it was one of those deals where it wasn't as like it is now. What it is now is it's better. It's quick and it's easy and it's over. But then it was like, hey, we should talk about talk through the inning, and I'm like, yeah, okay, and it's sure enough, first pitch, Harrison Bader hit a double. And that was back when the pitchers were hitting.
Yep.
So, there was some strategy. And of course, I thought about what that strategy looked like prior to the inning. But the inning started, strategy needed to take place. And I said, hey, I got to go. And I left,
Amazing.
And at that point, there was no regret on my part because, I'm trying to manage a game. That's first and foremost my job. And they took it personally. They got hacked off.
No.
And I was like, hey man, so that's the only part that really, but now it's, hey, it's a couple quick questions in between innings. I always request to have it done, early in the game, because you can't predict when the game's what's going to happen in the game, but, I don't want it in the fifth or sixth when you're sitting there trying to grind on a strategy decision. So, long answer to your question, I don't particularly mind it.
Shildty, are we your bread and butter too, Ben and Woods?
Oh man, you guys are bread, butter, strawberry jam,
bacon.
Flattery will get you
lard.
everywhere.
Yeah.
My last one, it's an easy one because we were talking all day about movies. What is Mike Shildt's favorite movie of all time?
Man, that's a good one because I've got different thoughts.
Yeah, for different
it.
moods. Yeah,
exactly. If I'm gonna go like I'll cry. I'll watch Rudy and cry.
Yes, me too. All right. What about a rom-com, a romantic comedy? Anything in the
Woods and I both guessed Notting Hill.
We like
I don't know
Notting
if you've
Hill.
seen it. We both like it. So
yeah.
I mean, Julia Roberts is my number one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right.
she's strong.
She's so strong.
I didn't have my head in that rom-com space with you guys.
All right.
I didn't know we
Easy
were
one.
popcorn.
All right, best baseball movie.
Oh, we did this one.
Did
with
we do
him.
that
He
one?
did it.
Natural?
No, it was a movie I'd never heard of before. What was that one again, Shilty?
That was more of a tongue-in-cheek. Bingo Long and the Traveling All.
Oh, yeah.
Bingo Along the Traveling All-Stars. I remembered. I couldn't remember the name of it.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's actually probably not my favorite baseball movie. My favorite baseball movie is probably Field of Dreams.
Nice. Yeah. Love it too.
I cried. Well,
That
coming
is
out of the
so big.
theater,
Cry every time.
I cried the first
Every
time.
single time. Shilty, thanks so
But,
much.
Comedy.
Oh, yeah, comedy. Go ahead.
Right, Blues Brothers.
All right. You and Mud. It's Mud's favorite. It's his go-to.
Yeah. Well, he's from Joliet.
Yep. That's exactly right. Well, thank you for your time.
Joliet,
Good luck
great.
against the Snakes, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right. Enjoy that beautiful day you have in front of you.
We will.
Thank you very much.
Too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Mike Shildt, manager of the San Diego Padres. Your manager's report refreshed by Eco Water SoCal. Try alkaline water for just $9.95 a month. Eco Water SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925.